Today we're going to talk about the hottest real estate in Western North Carolina. We've got 7 zip codes that are showing the most price appreciation between the first quarter 2024 and first quarter 2025. And topping that list with a whopping 241% in growth is zip code 28772. And where is that zip code?
Yeah, I had to look it up, actually, to be honest, because there's a lot of zip codes with 28 something around the area.
This is true.
But that is the area that encompasses Rosman, North Carolina. Now, if you've never heard of Rosman, that's okay. If you basically know where Hendersonville is located and you go due west on Highway 64 for about an hour, you will run into the town of Rosman. Now, Rosman is probably most famously known as having the headwaters for the French Broad River. And the French Broad River, if you're not familiar with that, is you're going up Interstate 26 from Hendersonville to Asheville, and you look to the side of the road at some points, you'll see this very wide river, and that is the French Broad. And what's also interesting about the French Broad, which is kind of mind-baffling, because you would think that rivers around this area would actually dump and the water would flow and eventually dump into the Atlantic Ocean. But nope. That's not what happens.
We are on the other side of the Eastern Continental Divide.
Continental Divide, that's right. And what that means is that the water flows the opposite direction and eventually ends up into the Mississippi River. It's one of the few rivers that actually flow north in the U.S. Yeah.
Do you know, also a fun fact is that the French Broad River is actually one of the oldest rivers in the world. Did you know that?
Didn't know that, but another not so fun fact is it's not always the cleanest either. But it is in Rosman, where the headwaters start. So that's why people go there to trout fish. They go there for tubing and kayaking and all that kind of fun stuff.
And by statistics, you would think, wow, this must be a really hot growing area. 241% growth. What does that really kind of mean?
Numbers can be deceiving. So let's break this down a little bit further. So that increase was based only on 9 home sales.
What?
And number one, that's because there's just not a lot of home inventory in Rosman area in general, because it's quite rural area. But so you had some homes that were skewing it pretty far north. There were a couple $1 million-ish type homes that made that percent increase. But Rosman is a lovely area if you're looking for peace, tranquility, and you really like that outdoor vibe.
And I think that probably gives us a sneak peek into the number 2 on our list as to why those numbers are skewed a little bit. Yeah. And that is, number 2 on the list is zip code 28747, which is...
That's Lake Toxaway. So if you're going on that same road, Highway 64, and you blow past Rosman, don't fear. You'll end up in the next hottest zip code right now, which is in Lake Toxaway. So Lake Toxaway is one of the largest private lakes in the state, and it's quite beautiful. Yeah. And it's kind of more of a luxury type scene and vibe, I would have to say.
I would say that the price points there
Your price points are going to be usually $700,000 or above, and it can go multi-million depending on where it is and what the property and how big and nice it is. It's also a town that's about halfway in between Brevard and Cashiers, North Carolina. And Cashiers is another very luxury mountain escape getaway. Cashiers has a lot of second homes of people that live in the Atlanta metro area. That's kind of
a big getaway from them.
Easy place to get to.
Yeah, it's an easy getaway.
So that was number 2 on this. Number 3 on the list is zip code 28766, which had a almost 53% increase year over year, and that is in
Penrose. And maybe a lot of you have not heard of Penrose either. Penrose is kind of a tucked in little area in between Brevard and Hendersonville, but kind of maybe closer to DuPont Forest.
I think that's a good description. It's just an area. I don't even think there's a traffic light. There's probably some four-way stops. That's about it. So it's nothing that you're going to be in the town of Penrose. It doesn't have a post office. It's just an area that's defined here. And this one's a little bit deceiving too, because the home sales in this case were only 13 homes that sold in Penrose. But it does have larger tracts of land versus some of the other zip codes in the area around here. So that probably also skewed the numbers a bit, because when you get into land, acreage and a home on it, you're going to be at usually $1 million plus price point if it's got a lot of, 10 plus acres, I would say.
That's true. And I would say a lot of that land there tends to be a little bit more in the valley, kind of close to mountain. So it may be flatter, more usable land than some of the other land.
And Penrose is closer to Brevard as your center of the universe than it is Hendersonville. Asheville at that point.
yeah, I think
But
so.
if you need to make a quick trip to the grocery store, as an example, you could also shoot over to Etowah, which is not far away. That's probably is technically your closest grocery store, and a couple restaurants in Etowah.
Yep.
So next on the list is zip code 28801. And
Now, I think most of you will probably have heard of this place.
probably. And that grew by almost 19% year over year, and that is?
Downtown Asheville.
And why would what's the attraction about downtown Asheville?
I mean, where do you start?
Well, I mean, to start, I guess, is that it is the epicenter for Western North Carolina in terms of retail, entertainment, population, jobs.
Access to all the outdoor things. I mean, you're
everything.
really just kind of the center of anything that you want to do.
If you want that arts and culture, the high dining experience, lots of options of things to do, that's where you want to be centered.
Yep.
And so it's not really surprising. And that actually is a true kind of price appreciation. Because
yeah, I was going to say there's a much better sample size there.
Yeah, 92 homes sold in this sample size.
In that zip code,
Right.
Yeah.
For that year-over-year analysis. So the next one is basically, if you don't want to be in the center of everything within Asheville, not far away, we have the other zip code that had 11%, just over 11% growth, and that is zip code 28701, and that is?
Alexander. And where is Alexander?
Alexander is, so if Asheville is here and you're going to go a little bit west on Interstate 26 for a little bit of ways, just above another town called Weaverville, you start to get into the area of Alexander, which is going to be on the west side of Interstate 26. So it is easy commuting distance to Asheville.
Some of that growth there is because it is just, if you wanted to get a little more like bang for your buck on
land home value, versus the price, that you're gonna look into Alexander and the bordering area just next to Alexander, which is called Leicester. It's spelled Leicester.
It's like one of those Worcestershire.
Yeah, you're not quite sure
Leicester,
how to pronounce it,
Leicester,
but most people around here pronounce it Leicester.
Yep.
That takes us to our next location, which is not in Buncombe County. We're going to head south to Henderson County in the 28731 zip code, and it also had around 11% growth year over year, and that is the areas of?
Flat Rock, East Flat Rock, and Dana.
Yeah, so let's just focus on the Flat Rock area because that is what most of us encompassed here. Flat Rock is a little town that is just directly south of Hendersonville.
Yeah.
And it does have a little village.
In the village of Flat Rock, there is a little bit of retail shopping. There's a few restaurants. There's
kind of a dine-in movie theater.
There's a dine-in movie theater.
Which also does some music events
Yeah,
now.
they do. Yeah, they do. There's also the State Theater for North Carolina, the Flat Rock Playhouse. They put on Broadway-style shows. They also will do like tribute bands and musical acts, things like that.
And then right next door to the Playhouse, there is a big national park.
Yep, the Carl Sandburg home, so lots of hiking trails.
Which is called Connemara. That's the name of the house, or the home that Carl Sandburg lived in.
You can go pet goats there.
Yeah, you can pet goats, you can have picnics, you can do some hiking. There's a few trails, which goes to a nice little lookout, actually. A little glassy is the trail that I'm talking about there. So Flat Rock, I would say, from a housing perspective, though, this is a good sample size, too. And that whole zip code, which it's a large zip code, let's point that out. It's probably larger than some of these other ones for sure. There was 119 homes that it was in this comparison year over year. When you get into Flat Rock, you're probably going to have more of think of it like an estate kind of size of home, and with a little bit of acreage, like an acre
I would say
and a
a lot
half.
of them are probably at least 3/4 to an acre. And then there's a larger subdivision that's a big golfing community, Kenmure. And I would say a lot of the lots in there are probably an acre. I mean, they do have some condos and townhomes as well, but
Yeah, and not as densely populated in terms of the housing. They're not going to be next door new development type situations. Now you get into East Flat Rock, and the price point, that's just over Spartanburg Highway, and the price points drop a little bit more in there, and you can find closer density, you can find more affordable homes, and that's still in the zip code. And then you go a little bit further afield from there, and you're in the area of Dana, which
is just on the other side of 26.
Which you get into more rural area, and you have some, that's where some of the apple growing happens in Henderson County. So that zip code encompasses a lot, but most of it's probably in this increase is in the East Flat Rock areas.
Yeah.
Last on the list for today is the 28739 zip code.
And the largest sample size of...
It had the most home sales, and that's not surprising because this area, it grew almost 11% to 10.7, and it is probably the most in-demand zip code in Henderson County.
It does cover a lot of the western side.
Covers two key areas. It basically covers Laurel Park, And then it also covers the extension going out Canoga Road. Canoga Road kind of connects, it eventually changes names into Crab Creek, but it is what connects Hendersonville to DuPont Forest and eventually Brevard if you
and
take it
Penrose
further.
area and all
Penrose,
it goes through
Penrose
all that.
too.
There's a lot of neighborhoods that this encompasses. And even some of downtown Hendersonville, that Fifth Avenue area is also 28739.
Yeah, and some of the most desired neighborhoods. So
Yeah.
you have neighborhoods like Crooked Creek, Beaumont Estates.
Did we say how many sales were in this? Okay. Did we say 312 was the.
I think we did.
So that's a good sample size. Yeah.
Yeah, 300 home sales, and typically in this area, homes in any market, they're going to stay on market fewer days than surrounding zip codes typically.
Yeah.
The inventory tends to move faster.
And I would say this zip code in general is probably going to give you more of that quintessential mountain feel, I think.
Well, the thing I think people find so attractive is that very quickly you can be to downtown Hendersonville, and very quickly you can be on Interstate 26 to take you either to South Carolina or to Asheville.
Yeah, I think all of these zip codes, I think what it's also telling me is that they're also offering a slice of that mountain living that
absolutely. Or lake living in the case of Lake Toxaway. It's some
form of the mountain.
Yeah, where you can go do outdoor activities,
Yes.
the mountain aesthetic, the scenery,
Yeah.
the ability to get on the parkways and have a great drive. It's all of that stuff that everybody wants to have when they move to Western North Carolina. Hi there, it's Ryan again. Be sure to leave some comments below and let us know what you think about these different areas of Western North Carolina. And as always, be sure to hit the subscribe button so you receive notification when we release new episodes.